Hey there, welcome back to ShipCrafter. We have aircraft in ShipCrafter, so let's have a look. What is the new feature? What can we do with them? First thing to note is that this feature is wildly experimental, these aircraft. And it is rather bare bones, but it does work. Over here we have the biggest hull. I think this is the Yamato hull, more or less. And I've added a bunch of flight decks to it. This is to test several things at once. 1. Does the flight deck work? 2. If I add multiple flight decks, does that actually count as several runways? So can I actually launch multiple aircraft at the same time? And 3. Is this thing survivable? Well, survivability buoyancy-wise is fine. We got 0.27 grams per cubic centimeter, so we're definitely buoyant. But armor, I have none. Well, except for the armored flight deck. If you want to add a flight deck to your ship, you now have the flight deck here, and it says it has to have at least 160 meters by 16. So 160 long, 16 wide. Larger flight decks allow for more traffic. You also have the option to go with armored, but armored flight deck is heavier. If you look at this deck here, this costs you 2 supply, has 30 millimeters of armor, and weighs half a ton. If you have this flight deck, one block weighs 0.92 tons, but it has 80 millimeters of armor. If you want to then add aircraft, it is quite straightforward. Just add aircraft to the ship. It doesn't say they need to be on the flight deck. They can be next to the flight deck, such as I have it right there. And they will just take off when you select a target. Or rather, not even when you select a target, they just take off, period. You have 3 different types. One is the strafer. The second is the bomber. And the third is the torpedo bomber. These, of course, a bit more useful against more agile targets. These more useful against big targets or, well, stupid targets that don't change the course. Strafers are useful for eliminating smaller stuff. They might knock out a turret. They might be able to strafe some unarmored PT boats. If aircraft are out of ammo, they just come back. They land, they resupply, and, well, within the span of 30 seconds, they take off again. So, sea power, take notes. As for your defense, we now have a new secondary mode. So let's say I want to have some defenses here. I'm going to have a couple of 5-inch guns. So I'm going to add mirror mode here. These weapons can now be seen in this menu here. You can click them to have them go to the secondary. But if you want to have them be strictly anti-air guns, you just hold shift and left click. And ta-da, we now have anti-air. I'm going to also add some smaller stuff. You can't have an aircraft carrier, or rather, you basically can't have a World War II ship in this era without having the 40mm Bofors. I'm going to turn all of those into AA platforms. And now let's see what we can fight. There are 2 new ships that you can engage. One is over here in Sheringham. It is the Weser, smaller aircraft carrier. And over here in Göteborg, we have the Graf Zeppelin. First, I'm going to take on the Weser to show you in a slightly less hefty environment what that looks like. Here we are, and there is the Weser. I'm going to just select this thing, so middle mouse it, and immediately they start launching aircraft, but so do we. It does appear that if your secondaries don't really have a role, they immediately start engaging ships. And let's see the aircraft. There we go, the aircraft are taking off. You can see just the amount of hits that we are inflicting. It's mostly ricochets because it's just the Bofors. You can see that the ship's getting pummeled there, but not really getting a whole lot of damage. I might be wrong about this, but I think you have to have your target selected with middle mouse. Otherwise, your aircraft are simply not going to do anything. So please take note, have your target selected, or they're just not going to get attacked. I did launch a whole bunch of aircraft, and then I was wondering, okay, but why am I not seeing attacks? Well, I hadn't selected the target. The moment you select the target, all the aircraft suddenly go, huh? And they go for it like it's, well, the greatest threat to their existence. And you can see some of these flight deck mechanics are a little funky. But the aircraft somehow managed to make it into the air. I think I just got hit by a bomb. Yeah, that was one bomb hit. They always seem to be going for center of gravity. And they're rather good at least hitting something the size of this. So far, I have been, I think, able to hit the smaller target with 3 ships. Oh, sorry, 3 torpedoes and with 2 bombs. There's this 3rd bomb. So they're definitely hurting, and they might succumb to this. Something I have noticed is that it doesn't seem to matter if you actually have a flight deck that is completely tilted, because it's, well, it's still going to go through. It's just still going to take off. So that shouldn't be a problem. As for my aircraft, you can see them kind of bumping into each other, but they still launch. There's a 4th bomb hit, apparently. Oh, the 2nd thing is still there. Huh. It's unfortunate. Could be an incoming aircraft. Yeah, these are outbound. These are ours. Keep in mind, this ship has essentially no armor. So any hit that I take is going to be damaging. Especially the port side seems to have taken some damaging hits. But we're mostly still functional, and we're definitely still afloat. 11 bomb hits. 12 bomb hits. 13. They're still taking it like a champ. I might have deplaned them. Because I haven't seen any action lately. So it's possible that the enemy aircraft carrier doesn't have any planes left. And you don't seem to rebuild them. So once they're gone, they're gone. This does mean that if you have an aircraft, or rather a ship with aircraft harassing you, it might be possible just to get some distance and shoot down the enemy aircraft. Once you've done that, potentially engaging the aircraft carrier or the ship or whatever it is going to be easier. Now, this ship is definitely taking damage, but even after 15 bomb hits, she's still resisting her fate. 17 bomb hits. I think I had mostly bombers on this particular flight deck. And another. Note how they always seem to be going directly for the center mass. Yep, 19. 20. That's a very tough carrier. That might not even be an armored flight deck. 21 hits. My funnel's taking a bit of damage. So in this case, it definitely would be handier to have a couple of torpedo bombers go in. Just to get that underwater damage. Below the water damage going in. This is getting a bit absurd though. The 25 bomb hits. The patch note did say we need to balance everything. So, yeah, you're probably going to see some changes to how much damage things do or don't do. Because this ship, for all intents and purposes, should probably have gone down by now. Now, let's say that you don't have as big of a flight deck available. What if you have a smaller craft, but you still want to take an aircraft with you? Well, you can, but it comes with limitations. And the limitation is, if you have a catapult-launched aircraft, you cannot retrieve the aircraft. So you can launch it, but that's about it. It's going to be a, well, not, well, yes. I suppose you might call it a one-way trip. I'm going to put it over there. This is a catapult. I'm particularly hopeful for this aircraft that it can rotate, and thus that we can launch. And of course, you got 3 variants. You got the strafer, you have the bomber, and you have the torpedo version. I'm just going to have the strafer out, and we're going to launch. There you can see the aircraft slightly turns. Oh, actually, I need to... Yeah. This is apparently locked to me. There. Wonk. Yeah. So, yes, it works. You can launch aircraft, but it seems to be slewed, or it seems to be connected to your cursor. Otherwise, they simply will not launch. I've already taken a ridiculous amount of damage. Then again, this was a very early craft of mine, so its survivability is rather limited. It's extremely long, but not very survivable. Anyway, that's how the catapults work. In order to do better AA, I think it's just an issue of just add better guns, or more of them. Because especially the 40mm guns, they get knocked out pretty quick. They got very little armor on them. The 127s are a bit better at 64mm. And yeah, the smaller you go. If you want to have one of these, you got 50mm of armor, it's going to get knocked out pretty quick. Regarding where bombers hit presently, it seems to be center of mass. So that little blue blob. If you armor that spot up with deck armor, you might survive a little longer. That might work a little better. There is, of course, also Graf. She is something else. She is something else. Let's have a look. I'm going to load up the Trioa. In case you don't know what the Trioa is, it's this. The Trioa is a throwback to when I was doing naval craft. And over here you can see that we have various 18-inch turrets. We also have a couple of aircraft, but these are not even catapult versions. So I'm going to add catapult versions, let's say torpedo versions. Mirror mode on. With a catapult, please. And let's hope that these things will want to take off. Point that backwards. There. Most of the ship is just big turrets as well as 40mm guns. One thing that I'm going to improve, especially going up against Graf, is having a bit more armor. So these parts are fantastic targets for that ship. And I'm going to make sure that they have a bit more survivability. The rest of the ship, she's okay. But she might be slightly over-armored for the job. And thus her buoyancy is negatively impacted. It should work more with waterline armor levels. Okay. Now, let's see. Take on Graf. The Graf can be found in Göteborg. Oh, sorry, the Graf. The Graf Zeppelin. That ship. So, there she is, all the way in the back. 5,000 meters out. I'm not going to wait until she actually gets the drop on me. Let's start launching aircraft if we can. There's 1, 2, 3. The other bird apparently doesn't feel like launching. Come on, dude, get off my deck. Get off! There she goes. And there she goes. Okay, good. Now, here come all the aircraft. And as Graf, I think originally was a cruiser. She is fairly scary. Because she not only engages you with aircraft, she also comes after you with her straight up gun power. Which is not insignificant in case of that carrier. She's pretty potent. Let's see if I can get some damage in using the 18s. Couple of hits. Now, take note that the angle of the flight deck is dramatic, but she might still try to retrieve aircraft. And that's the big difference between catapults and flight decks. If you have a flight deck, your aircraft can actually be retrieved, rearmed, and relaunched. If you have just your catapult, it's a one and done. Okay, she's going down. But she's definitely pulled a number on me too, and that torpedo isn't helpful. So yeah, bring your AAA, or they'll bring you down. Now, in order to get this update, all you have to do is, well, update the game. There's no beta branch that you need to unlock or stuff like that. Good luck surviving the oncoming aircraft. Good luck. things will be balanced, things will be different, things will be adjusted. But for now, this is what we have, and I think it looks fun. Thank you for watching, hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for more ShipCrafter.